is a principal. My mom was a teacher before she went into nursing. My dad was a teacher before he went into politics. All their siblings teach. I'm the only one that hasn't chosen that career path. But the point I'm making is I am the only person that didn't go down that path. And so I'm also one of many that went to four-year college, four-year school. And so, but at the same time, I had my own difficulties. I failed out of college, actually. Like I said, it's a very enjoyable thing to go to college. Sometimes a little too enjoyable. It was a little too enjoyable for me. I was partying. I was doing everything under the sun that I shouldn't have been doing other than going to class and getting my education taken seriously. And after my freshman year of college, I failed out of college. And I had to get permission to come back and take summer school courses. And I had to get certain grades in school to be able to get back into college. They let me do summer school. I took 2 classes. I had to have a B and a C. And I got a B and a C plus. And thank God I was able to get back in school. And unfortunately, I still didn't take it very seriously. And nearly failed out again, just got the bare minimum to stay in. And the point I'm trying to make is that even though I came from a family that valued education, and were very distraught when I didn't do the same, and they had all gone to college, that I wasn't valuing it myself. And it took some really special professors, which I'm sure you are encountering as well here at James Front, to kind of knock me on the head and make me understand the opportunity that I had in front of me. And then I also met my future wife, and she helped me make sure I understood that as well. And I started making sure I woke up in the mornings and going to class, which is one of the very most important things you have to do, is just wake up in the morning when you're in school and get to class. If you get to class and you're there ready to learn, you're going to excel for the most part, in my opinion. And then, you got to give it more after that. But once I started going to class and taking it seriously, I made dean's list for the entire second half of my college career after initially failing out. And let me also say that education is not just about the degree you make. It's, in my opinion, and this is probably more important to me in my job than the degree and the piece of paper I have that has a degree on it. It's valuing education and valuing knowledge. And so when you're here in school, the classes you take, certainly go home and study, read everything you're supposed to read. But do things like watch the news every night. That's probably, obviously it's important to me because of what I do something that's in public affairs and government and politics. But you need to value the news as well. If you come to class prepared, knowing what's going on in the world, and you can relate what it is you're learning in class to what's going on in the world, and you can show your professors that, I guarantee your professors will take you that much more seriously. And your grades and achievement in class will be that much easier to come by. So be curious. Get involved in your community. Read the newspaper. Read not only your local newspaper to know what's going on in your local communities, but read the big newspapers. Read News and Observer out of Raleigh to understand what's going on in your state. Read something like the New York Times, any chance you can, to understand what's going on in the world. Be involved. Don't just be someone that doesn't know what's going on in the world, because everything going on has an effect on you, and you can also affect things going on around you as well. But you have to be aware of what's going on around you. And so don't only go to school and excel there. First, obviously, you have to do that. But know what's going on around you. Value knowledge and value education, which happens most of the time outside of the 4 walls around you in your classroom. So that's probably one of the most important things I do. And when and if you do transfer to a 4-year college, and here at James Front as well, like I said, I literally failed out of school, and 2 years ago I was named a distinguished alumnus at UNC Melvin. And when I was there, I told the story about failing out and all that, and I told them that some of your professors may not like to hear this, and some of the professors that are here with us today may not like to hear this. But when you're in college, I would always say that college is 50% academic and 50% social. That if you let one outweigh the other, you haven't had a well-rounded experience in school, and you're not going to be prepared for the workforce, no matter what you go into. Certainly, at a time in my life and a time in my education career, I let the social outweigh the academic. But I know that with what I do, a lot of times my social skills are more important than my educational background. So what I'm saying is make sure that you get involved in your school, and make sure you make friends, and make sure you get out and enjoy yourself and all that. But don't let that social enjoyment certainly outweigh what you're trying to do educationally. Because you can have all the degrees in the world. I remember the first job I had out of college, I worked for a political policy think tank called the Democratic Leadership Council. And there were 40-some people that worked there. And I was one of 2 people that didn't go to school in a place like Yale or Duke or something like that. I remember there was a girl that went to Florida State, and there was me that went to UNC Wilmington. And I had the biggest complex about that because I thought, I'm not any better than any of these people. They're all better than me. They went to better schools. They came from, wealthy families, this, that, and the other. And I had the biggest paranoia and complex about that. And it actually it's so much so that it caused me to leave that job and just choose a little bit different career path. And I took a job running a political campaign. And the person that I worked with was a Duke University graduate. I grew up as a big Duke University basketball fan. I was a high school basketball player, and I always dreamed I was never that good where I could go to Duke. I always dreamed of going to Duke and playing basketball, and I always looked up to anybody who went to Duke. I always thought they were much more superior than I was. And that probably was the case. But so anyways, I just always looked at that. My very first person I worked with on this political campaign went to Duke University. And so I was like, good Lord, I got out of this situation where I thought everybody was better than me, and here I'm back into a situation like that. And, I don't know if anyone has ever been involved in politics or volunteer on any political campaigns. Hopefully, if you haven't now, at some point you will, no matter what party or politician it is. But if you've been involved in that, you realize it's not the degree you have or where you went to school. No one asked me ever where I went to school. No one probably ever asked him where he went to school. And it matters how you dealt with people. And for the most part, I tend to do pretty well with people one-on-one. I may not be the best public speaker or anything like that in the world, but I do pretty well with people one-on-one. Most people find me trustworthy, and for the most part, find me likable. And so I was able to accomplish things that he was never able to accomplish. And he had come from kind of a real bourgeoisie background, very wealthy family. And he had trouble relating to just regular folks. And I came from a pretty regular background, and I never had that issue. And so I saw where I was able to accomplish more than he ever was. And it just taught me, again, it doesn't matter where you come from, what school you go to, or whatever. It matters your personality, if you have a positive attitude, but also, again, you have to have the prerequisites of the degree required for the job and all that. But again, that's why I come back to the college is 50% academic and 50% social. And you got to get the best of both worlds, because you can go up against someone for a job that went to Duke University or went to Harvard or something like that, and you may feel inferior to them that you didn't go there. But if you have an attitude that shines, that is the most important thing of all. And so you have to remember when you're dealing with folks to be positive, to be friendly, to make sure you're meeting folks and networking. Does that make sense to everybody? Does everyone get that? Because if you have that, it doesn't matter anything else. If people respond to you, if people like you, if they find you trustworthy and they think you can do the job, you can get a job over anybody else. I've encountered a lot of folks since that first job I had, and I had an inferiority complex where I wasn't good enough. I just went to an average state school. Everybody else went to this, that, and the other and came from this type of family. Once I had that inferiority complex, I have learned to overcome that, because I realized that I can deal with people that maybe other people cannot deal with. And if you have that skill set, you can do anything in life. And so if I can leave you with anything today, and I want to hear from y'all a little bit, but if I can leave you with anything today, get your academics straight, learn as much as you can, learn things outside of the four walls of education, follow current events, read the newspapers, value knowledge, value education, but just be a good person that people can respond to and react to. And know that that's at least half of it, if not much more than your educational background. You will always be okay in life if people like you and they respond. In my opinion. And that's what I've seen so far. Now, I'd like to hear from some of y'all, if that's okay. I'm curious as to what career paths y'all are interested in. I met you the other night at Jimmy Tate's event, and was Scholarly Men of Success was the name of the organization, right? And I got put at a table with somebody. I know I saw you there as well, and I was extremely impressed with all you young men that were involved in it. And I got put at a table with some of the other Scholarly Men of Success. And I was sitting there, and I didn't realize that y'all would get up and applaud for everything that happened. You were extremely respectful, and I thought y'all were right on point with how y'all acted that night. And you're obviously going places. Yeah, I was very impressed with you that night. And yeah. It's a good job for y'all for taking the extra steps and being serious about your education and community involvement, because I know that's also part of it as well. But so I got put at the table with the folks that are involved in Scholarly Men of Success, and I'm sitting there trying to eat, and they're getting up and applauding and everything, and I'm getting up and applauding. We're the only people standing up and applauding, and it's not what my idea, it was your idea, but I got sucked up into it. Yeah, but I appreciate it. It's funny. And I respect what y'all are doing, and obviously y'all are going places, and thank you for what y'all do. I know I believe you were there as well, so yeah, you were a bit of a star that night. Yeah, good for you. But I'll just, since I met you already, I'll point you out, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to get out of education here on the front?
Well, in May, I will be graduating and transferring to North Carolina A&T.
Nice.
And I plan on majoring in music.
Okay. What is any particular field within music? Do you sing or do you play an instrument?
And I'm thinking about going to the teacher route.
Were you set on A&T? That's where you want to go, which is a great school. When I worked for Congressman Watt, that was in our district. It's a great school. So you're all set. You've gotten that. Congratulations to you, my friend. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you, brother. What are you interested in? That's what you get for sitting beside us.
Early college, early childhood.
Okay. So what do you want to do with that whole thing?
Basically, I'm trying to further it more going to early college.
Do you want to be in education, or I know you said early childhood education? I got a 3-year-old who's going to help me out. Good for you. Is there a particular college you're interested in? Would you study education once you got there? Just down the road, UNC Wilmington, I'm not here, I'm going to get paid advocate. But UNC Wilmington has a good education program, very difficult. I probably definitely would have failed out. I think a little bit easier. Ma'am, what are you interested in? Nursing, okay. All right. Nursing, in my opinion, and my mom's a nurse, like I said, she switched from education to nursing. She is 71 years old, and she should be long ago retired, but she still does nurse. She's a bit hyperactive and crazy. That's one of those things. Nursing, in my opinion, in nursing careers, you're making more and more every year. Nurses in demand where they have to go overseas and basically import folks who work in nursing. Nursing, in my opinion, this is something y'all will learn ultimately if you don't know already. I think I heard someone talking about, I just overheard a conversation, someone maybe wanted to study social work at some point. This is something you'll learn. The type of jobs where you have the most positive impacts on people on a micro basis, on a one-on-one basis, and in your community, unfortunately, I'm going to go ahead and warn you if you don't know already, those aren't the jobs where you get paid the most. Everyone knows that, right? And nursing is one of the very few jobs where, in my opinion, and I commend you for your interest in that, I wish you the absolute God's honest best of luck to you. Nursing is one of those jobs where you're having an extremely positive impact on someone on a one-on-one basis. My father actually just got sent home from the hospital yesterday after having a second stroke, and he was at New Hanover Regional. And you see, if you didn't know already, the impact nurses have on people. But getting to my point, nursing is one of the very few, if only, jobs where you can have an extremely positive impact on a one-on-one basis with someone, and you actually get paid decent money to do it. Not to say that money is the end-all be-all, because it's certainly not. If it was, I would have chosen a different career path. And I don't get rich off what I do, but I commend you for that, and I wish you all the success in the world. What are you interested in?
Well, I'm taking business classes right now. I'm associate.
See, he's gonna be making some money, right?
I would like to do like a public service. A lot of people say to stay away from politics, but I think, I like to make a difference. I believe in the youth. Money's not a real big thing. I know we need to survive. I think making a difference in the community is a bigger thing for you. It's a good job.
Yeah, if you are interested in politics, and please tell me when my time's short.
Good.
If you are interested in politics, and I meet a lot of younger people that are interested in politics, I would recommend, if you're talking about running for office, I would recommend that you make a career in something else, something like business. I mean, if you're successful in business, a small business owner, what have you, that is one of the most attractive career paths to come from, and then elevate yourself into the political realm. Because people like to see, for instance, it's myself, someone who's worked in politics all their life, I would not be a very attractive political candidate. Someone who's made a career in business, certainly you would kind of be beyond what I would be as far as what the public would want to have in a political office. My boss, for instance, was a successful attorney. And so people want to see that you've been successful outside of politics before you get into politics, you know what I'm saying? So, and certainly if you can be successful in business, you can find opportunities to give back to your community. And then, you can do public service to elected or to whatever. Are you looking to transfer to?
UNC government.
Great business school. At one time, last time I checked, 2 or 3 years ago, UNC Wilmington, even above UNC itself, had the top ranked business school in the state. And that may or may not be the case now, but I know they're right up there. So, what are you interested in? You know my answer. And if you aren't interested in speaking out, tell me to be quiet. Majoring in okay. What is your ultimate goal with it? Okay. Great. One of my best friends' wife's a veterinarian and does very well. Science isn't my background, so you have a lot of skill sets I don't have. Your brain works in different ways than mine does. But I wish you luck with that. I can't do the science stuff. I'm glad there are people like you that are smart enough to do it, but that's not my skill set. I wish you luck. For you, ultimately, do you want to transfer to a 4-year college? Okay. So they have that program here at James Farm. Best of luck. I wish you luck. I'll say this. There's a bank that's real successful in Wilmington. It's called Live Oak Bank, and their national headquarters is in Wilmington, actually. And they work with only a very select group of businesses that they make loans out to. And when they first got started, the only business that they would work with, literally, was veterinarian clinics. And the reason being is that is the least riskiest business in the entire United States. It's got the lowest risk of default of any business. I think it was something like 0.01% of veterinarian clinics ever go bankrupt. And so they made their money by lending money to veterinary clinics, and now I think they do community pharmacies. And so they only work with 2 or 3, but where they started was veterinary clinics. So if you're looking to go into that, chances are you'll always have work and always have opportunities. So I wish you luck with that. You ladies, what are you all interested in?
I'm making the 3rd chapter.
Okay. All right.
I want to work with
Okay. Listen, and if there's other people, we probably, like 4 people maybe can help my daughter.
I want to work with babies and old kids.
Yeah, okay. My wife is a middle school teacher, and she got switched from 6th grade to 8th grade, and so I'm sure she'd feel you on that. I think the older they get, the more drama and more problems they are.
My cousin, she teaches in Wilmington.
Does she? Where's she teaching?
I don't know what school.
Okay.
But she teaches 7th grade.
Okay.
And she said, "Them are rough kids."
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I wish you luck. Teaching is God's work. This state is a very tough state to teach in right now, unfortunately. We need to value our teachers a lot more than we do. But I'm glad there's folks doing it out of the kindness of their own heart, because as far as what it gets into your bank account every month, it's tough. But I'm glad folks are doing it. I know early childhood education is different than public education, but I wish it was. What are you ladies interested in?
I'm going to be a
I'm sorry? Okay. My wife is 8 months pregnant. Lord, I'm glad I came here. I came here to network, but I think I'm networking. Good luck. That's another thing. I tell you, certainly everyone appreciates nurses and doctors and everything, but I mean, babies are so frail. I don't understand how people can do it. God bless you for your interest in wanting to do it, but I don't understand how people do it. The babies are so fragile, and I'm one of those. I'm a bleeding heart. I'm one of those guys who loves little kids, but they're so fragile and delicate. I don't understand how anybody does it, but I'm glad you do. I had to speak the other night in an event for hospice, and we were talking about the value of hospice and different things. It's another one of those things. The very beginning of life and the very end of life. I don't know how people deal with it and how they do it, but God bless them for wanting to do it, and I wish you all the success in the world. And again, as we're talking this, any endeavor anyone has, and y'all think there's an opportunity that Congressman McIntyre's office can help, if anyone's interested in internships or anything like that, one of the great things about government and politics, one of the great things about government and politics is it affects absolutely everything. And so you could be interested in being a pediatric nurse, and by understanding how our governmental system works and understanding politics, you can apply that to every single job there is, because politics, for right or for wrong, has an effect on every job that there is. What are you interested in?
social.
Other than fashion, I'll see you again. You're interested in social work? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you. I'll give you a compliment. I hope it came off right away. So are you wanting to transfer to a four-year college as well? Do you know where you're interested in going? Fayetteville State, over there. One of my best friends was the supervisor president there. I'll say this about social work. One thing you may not know is, you could work in a United States congressional office if that's something you're interested in. My co-worker has an undergrad in social work from UNC Wilmington. She got a master's in social work from the University of Georgia. And because most people think, when they think of like a congressional office, they think of politics and just that type of thing. But actually, 95% of the people we have on staff are actual social workers. The interns we get coming through our office come from the social work department at UNC Wilmington, some of the political science department, but most of the social work department. Those are our best interns. Because most of what happens in a congressional office, in Washington, D.C., half of our staff is there and they work on issues and legislation and all that. But actually in the district office, we have about 12 employees, and we have 3 different offices: Elizabethtown, Smithfield up in Johnson County, and the Wilmington area. And so what we do is we help folks navigate the federal bureaucracy. For instance, like a veteran who's having trouble getting their disability settled out. That's when a social worker can come in and kind of help them navigate the system, because at any level, a social worker helps people, for the most part, navigate the system, whether it be local, state, federal government, and help them get the benefits they're entitled to and that they paid into through their taxes. So that may be something you're interested in. And I tell you, a United States congressional office, while it's not something you're making 6 figures at or far from that, you make a good salary, but even better than that, we have some of the best benefits in the world. So that as you're kind of moving down the line and progressing in your education, if you're interested in, you may be like, what the heck are you talking about? I don't know. But if you are interested in that, that's something you should think about. Because a lot of people don't think about that. They just think, you got to be interested in politics if you were working a congressional office. The majority of people aren't political weirdos like me. The majority of people are actually social workers working on office. That wasn't fun. What are you interested in?
Early childhood, and I want to have my own business and franchise.
Okay. Y'all got some good people in here. I tell you, a lot of times we're around students, you're like, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to make this amount of money and all that. Y'all got some good hearts in here. I appreciate that. What are you interested in, if you don't mind me asking? Nursing? Okay. Great. I appreciate it. What, are you going to be doing that here at James Front? Are you transferring somewhere? Okay. So you get your nursing degree here. Okay. Beautiful. What are you interested in?
I was interested in nursing, but I'm going to take my baby to
Okay. What kind of history are you interested in?
like World War II, World War II, World War politics, stuff like that. I really am interested. And I like what you said about college is 50% social and 50% education, because I too did go to a 4-year university at the University of Kentucky. But then I partied and everything and ended up being right back down here. But I do like going here because it's more smaller. I think the teachers and the professors, they, give you that one-on-one and teaching them some things you can't really get from a 4-year college. So,
Yeah. Well, are you from Kentucky? Are you from here?
no, I'm actually from here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I commend you on. I've got a lot of friends. I guess I hung around partiers or something in college. I mean, I don't know, but I got a lot of friends that go out, and I commend you on what you're doing because I know that they didn't go back to school. I mean, they failed out, and it was left like that. And some of them have been fortunate in their career to persevere. Some have not. And I commend you on coming back and picking yourself up and what you're doing. And I wish you all the luck in the world. I'm very interested in history as well. Like I said, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and we could have traveled different places as kids, but I never went to like the Caribbean or anything like that. My dad would take us to like Gettysburg and a motorhome and stuff like that, like at Civil War battlefields, stuff my wife hates me for now because that's the type of thing I'm interested in, and she wants to go to an island or something like that, even if we could. What are you interested in?
Early childhood.
Early childhood, good for you. You, sir?
Advertising.
Now, I know you're a scholarly man and all that, so what scholarly are you interested in?
One for advertising, graphic design.
Okay. Now, will you be able to accomplish that here, or are you looking to transfer?
Actually transfers either Wilmington or my own college.
Okay. And what are you interested in?
Advertising, graphic design.
Okay.
My ultimate goal is to have a business from home. I'm disabled, trying to get back into it.
Okay. So I assume both of you are pretty tech savvy.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not yet.
All right. Good for you. I'm not. Good for you. Good for you. What are you interested in?
Office administration.
Okay. Like what type of office would you like to work in? And can you do that here? Okay.
But I think I prefer a doctor's office.
Okay. Speaking of office administration, I don't know if you had read some of the Star News articles recently talking about how high the salaries were for a lot of the folks that were office administrators and secretaries in the New Hanover County school system. Some of them, their salaries reached up to $90-some thousand. And so, I mean, there were like a dozen, if you don't believe me, look it up. If there were like a dozen folks that were in the office administrative division within the New Hanover County school system that made big time money, like $60,000 between $60,000 and $90,000. I mean, good money stuff. I'd love to have. So, maybe you can teach me a little something you don't. But yeah, I mean that can be a very lucrative career path, and depending on where you work and who you work for and all that. And certainly, if you're looking to work for a doctor's office, I mean, I think you'll always have very stable employment, stable hours, and everything like that. So, which is another important thing. I mean, when it comes time to, some of you may have already raised families. My wife and I were just kind of getting started. That's also something that, it's worth its weight in gold if you have a job where you have a boss, an employer that's flexible with you and understanding that family comes first. And I'm sure it probably does for you all as it does for me. That's an important thing. There's some industries and businesses or jobs you can get into where, they want you to work, 12 hours plus a day. And that may sound cool and exciting for a little bit, depending on what the job is, but it gets old really fast, in my opinion. The job I do, when I was at the Scholarly Men the other night, that took away from my family, and I was happy to be there. But at the same time, I have an employer that is understanding of that, so I could come in late, the following day and that type of thing. He kind of balances it out. We get a Friday off every other week, called our flex days, to accommodate the fact that we have to. That we work evenings sometimes and very, very early mornings. So, that's also something obviously to keep in mind when you're looking around. Hopefully you have a selection of places you can go work, and please keep that in mind, because if it's not something you value now, it's something you'll probably value in the future. What were you interested in?
Registered nursing.
Registered nursing. What are you interested in? Physical therapy, okay. Yeah. I have an injury from basketball. I have to see a physical therapist about twice a week. I think she does pretty well. Fortunately, I have good insurance. But that's a good line of work. My wife's younger brother actually has a PhD in physical therapy, and he lives up in Chicago and teaches at Northwestern. It's kind of cool. I feel like I got at least a little bit of a story for everybody. Sometimes a good action. But yeah, he does real well. He likes it. He ultimately wants to work for like an NBA team and be kind of like their, I guess not their team doctor, but like their team therapist. And so that may be something to mention. I don't know, but as athletes get paid more and more for right or for wrong, they have to protect their investment in those athletes, whether it be college or pro or anything like that. So I would imagine, I know that's a very much a growing industry. My father, he's been recovering from his strokes. He's a physical therapist on a regular basis. And anything in the healthcare field, and I think in particular, physical therapy, I think is a great future because our aging population is going to see to that you always have a job. So, cool. I wish you would do it. I mean, what do you want to do within physical therapy? Do you want to work privately or in a public sector type job?
Wow.
Okay, like you'd like to maybe work at a school or something, work with athletes, or I know I've got a friend that works in the school, the New Hampshire County school system actually. It's just what they're, I didn't even know that the school system had that type of thing. We both learned something. What do you actually, it's intricate to point that. And I've already heard that you're extremely impressive, so I see you.
Social work or technology?
Are you going to do that here? Or will you transfer?
I will actually be transferring, I'm sure you'll love this, UNCW. I figured I would go to UNCW, fortunately, like you mentioned, I have started my family, that is, primary concern. But they have an extension in Onslow County.
I didn't know that.
For social work, to get back to social work, to, not only is it financially better because it's half the price of, actually being an on-site, on-campus student, but the times, I just understand
What do you want to do?
I would probably prefer to do some type of social work field as an actual social worker, social services somewhere, or in school. I can only do work for the school system, we have a background with two separate social services agencies for Sampson and Newton County. I'm leaning to either one of those, primarily for school because, again, my children are there, and so being on their schedule, someone being on my wife currently working social services, so allowing one of us to still be on their schedule and spend that time, and some is more like would be great.
Yeah, and that's how my wife is. She gets, like I said, it's a tough state to be a teacher in right now. She gets pretty upset about it a lot of times, and but at the end of the day, what other job can you have if you work in the school system? Be home with your kid, with your family in general in the summer. Even though the summer seems a lot shorter now than it did at one time before. And then you can hopefully get out of work by 5 in the morning. Everything like that. So good for you. I wish you luck. What are you interested in?
Graphic design. I'm hoping from there to take it to video game design.
Oh, cool.
And I'm also a major in applied animal science technology. And from there, my video game career kind of take off.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Feels weird up here talking to someone like you. You should be talking to me. Real smart, right? Good luck to you. Now, I had a friend who got a job ultimately, one of my fraternity brothers in college. He got a job with the part of the video game industry that does like the music, that puts the music into the video games. I guess I'm not the tech savviest person in the world, but and he went to Savannah College of Art and Design, or Art and Technology. I guess they have a special program. But I wish you luck. I don't know how much I can talk because you see I'm like, but I wish you luck. Where do you live in Onslow County? Know where you say you live?
I live like a mile from the Dickie County line in this little town called Jackson. It's near Richland.
Okay. I know where you're from. And what are you interested in, sir?
I'm associate in science right now.
Okay.
Transferred to ASU University. Major in physical therapy.
Yeah, communications was one of mine. So do you want to, did you say you want to use physical therapy?
Yeah, I went to massage therapist and had my own practice. Yeah, I went also go to games like a team massage therapist and this player.
Now, do you have a sports background? Play sports in high school? Yeah, I think that certainly helps you better for it if you understand. Good for you. Now, you're in school here as well? he was out there waiting for me. I thought he was like the president. I didn't know all president.
I did my finals here.
Oh, do you? Okay. Again, not my strong point. Good for you. But I appreciate you greeting me. That's why I asked that question, because you seemed in charge.
I'm people.
Good for you.
That's how long.
Good for you. I like that post. That's nice. Did I properly annoy everybody? Does anyone have any questions for me at all?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You spoke about pensionership. Is there like an age criteria that they're looking at?
No. Matter of fact, I'd say we have 4 interns right now. We downsized our office. We only have 2 people at that office right now, and I spend a lot of time on the road, not in the office. And so it's important we have 1 or 2 interns at all times in the office. So I think we have 4 now, and 3 of the 4 are older than I am. I'm in my early 30s, so it's not an age thing. If someone, we'd love to give the opportunity to someone who is very interested in opportunity. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Where do you live? You live here in Duplin County?
Yes.
Where at?
We live, where I live is actually town of Brown, in Cleveland County. So, Dr. Tate is actually my commissioner.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I kind of straddle the line.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that, I was thinking where maybe our closest office would be or something like that. But, I'll give you my card. We'll chit chat. I'd love to, if you're interested, I'd like to provide that. That'd be great. Any other questions? Is anybody?
I appreciate that. Because being in politics, I think here at the I appreciate that, and you have, and that's because we're running for office and we have people.
Well, I've kind of run for offices before. Now, I'm going to kind of take off my Mike McIntyre hat real quick and just put on this hat, because I don't want to get too political on you. For those of y'all who know Mike McIntyre, he's a very middle-of-the-road person. He works with Republicans and works with Democrats and can make both sides angry, which is, I think, a good thing. And, I think one of the scariest things for the future of this country is kind of the Democrat and Republican fighting right now. And while I may be personally a little more liberal than my boss, I value the fact that he's one of the very few people. First of all, he's a good Christian man. I value the fact that he works with both sides and it's not on cable television yelling at somebody or getting yelled at. He keeps his head down, tries to do what's right for our area. But as far as myself personally, I was an elected official within the Democratic Party. Until a few months ago, I was the statewide elected vice chairman for the Democratic Party for 4 years. And actually in that position, during the 2008 primary between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, I endorsed Barack Obama and got to be his introductory speaker at a couple of events, got to travel with him in the car. And as an aside, let me just tell you, growing up in Washington, D.C., and my father was very deep in politics. I've met Bill Clinton, I've met a lot of politicians. I grew up, I'm sure when y'all were younger, when you got sick or something happened, you had to go work with your parents. I'm sure everyone experienced that. When that happened to me, I went to the U.S. Capitol. That's where I went when I was a little kid. So I grew, not to say that that's the coolest thing in the world. Some people that's cool, some people whatever. That's where I went when I was little. So I'd say that to make a point. I've been around politicians all my life. And while our current president may be under a little bit of heat pressure right now, I'm a firm believer that he's one of the most decent human beings and most moral people and one of the best family men to ever step foot in the White House. Some things I don't always agree with sucker or whatever, I don't know, but the little bit of time I got to spend around him, it was very clear he was a decent human being. And everything I've ever seen from him shows me that, you know, we have some amazing people right now. For instance, everyone's talking about JFK because the 50th anniversary is coming up on the assassination. JFK was an amazing president, left an amazing legacy. But if you look at his personal life, there's a little bit to be desired. And unfortunately, we need more women in office, I'll say that. But unfortunately, with powerful men, that seems to be a problem. Their personal lives leave a bit to be desired. But I am extremely proud of our president right now, the type of human being he is, which in my opinion is absolute first and foremost for me. I've been in politics for a long time, but what appeals to me more as politicians is speak to the heart. And he's one of those. And I can't say enough how proud I've been to the little bit I've gotten to know him and spend time around him. He's a beautiful human being. And, I deal with a lot of people that really don't like him. And, and I have to keep my mouth shut a lot of times. But where I have a very hard time, and I get paid sometimes to keep my mouth shut. I can't alienate people. But where I have probably not as much as you think, but my wife and I, we're middle class, to say the least. We're both public servants. But I'm blessed to have what I have. Where I can't go along with folks is, where people attack him as a human being. And I'm sure you all heard, I don't even know some people say. And you get people who just think these are words saying never step foot on earth. And I can't go along with you, but if you don't like someone's politics, that's another thing. But don't attack someone as a human being. We've had a lot worse human beings stepping foot in that office than what we got there right now. And that's another thing, in regards to politics, to the extent you're interested in, if I could implore you to get past the Democrat and Republican stuff, because I think that's what's tearing this country up. I'm definitely a Democrat, and have been all my life, but people who disagree with me are just people that disagree with me. And they have a different worldview, they maybe had a different rating. They're not wrong. At the end of the day, 100 years from now, when they look back and see the people who are on a different side of the aisle from me were right and I was wrong. Or they may look back and see that I was right and they were wrong. But what we have to get past is hating people because they may be part of a different political affiliation than you are. And we should enjoy and take pleasure in talking to people that disagree with us rather than just surrounding yourself with people that you agree with all the time. And we need to have those conversations in a civil manner and learn from each other rather than hate each other. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that diatribe. That's something as deep as I am in politics and how hardcore I am in my beliefs. That's something I'm really scared for. When I look at my 3-year-old and look at my wife's ever-growing tummy, that's what worries me for my 2 children's future. Is this fighting Democrat and Republican stuff. We've got some big issues we face in this country, but the problem aren't the issues we face, it's the people that are facing them on our behalf, and the fact that they're not working together. Politics, by definition, is literally the art of compromise. And so we're sending people to Washington and Chicago who think that their goal is to go there and fight for their beliefs and the people they elected them, not realizing that at the end of the day, they fight for their beliefs, and they have to compromise with the other people that are also elected. And that's what most makes me fearful for the future of our country. But anyway, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you think there will be opportunity to campaign come up that some of these students would serve as volunteers so they can get their experience? Do you think they use this contact with them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I take off my back there. When you work for a member of Congress, you can't be involved politically with the campaign or anything like that. But certainly, after hours, I help out some and everything. And I would love for y'all to help out. It doesn't even have to be my boss. I mean, if you even want to help out the guy running against my boss, what have you. I hate to see that, but if you want to help out, someone running for U.S. Senate or someone running for president, I'm certainly plugged in all those opportunities. And if there's someone that's interested in that, I'll be more than happy to plug y'all in, no matter who it is. And I think that's something that's really important. you know, there's so few people that are interested in politics, and maybe rightfully so they're not interested. A lot of people are tired of it. But that means if you do get involved, you can be that much more influential, because it used to be back in the day, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, people were excited, interested in politics, interested in volunteering. It's not the case anymore. And so much of the time and money is spent on commercials and that kind of thing. You can raise millions and millions of dollars. But what's missing is the people that are willing to go out there and talk to their neighbors about somebody that they believe in. And as President Obama showed you, whether you supported him or not, that if you have people at the grassroots level that are willing to do anything they can to make sure you get into a position of power and influence, anything that can happen. No one would have thought he would have been able to beat you know, the Clinton machine in the primary and ultimately become president after serving only 2 years in the U.S. Senate. But he did it because he had people power. And so that's the most important thing. I'd take people power over any amount of money in the world if I was running for political office. So I would be happy to be a conduit to anyone willing to get involved in politics. Yes, ma'am.
This is about the funding for North Carolina Community Watch Grant. Are you familiar with that?
Which one?
It's called the North Carolina Community Watch Grant, the CFNC. This is where we got state grant and North Carolina District County Scholarship. And currently, the funds are exhausted. And this affects students who they don't, some students don't qualify for it. This might be the only thing they qualify for. Is there any other source that this can be pulled from, or is there anything that can be done to get these funds back? Because as of right now, next semester, we can't award any of those funds. It's just done. The state doesn't have it. So is there anything that can be done, or anything in the pipeline coming, you know, hope?
Well, let me preface my answer with, remember, I'm on the federal level, and that's state dollars that you're talking about. And a lot of the educational dollars come from the federal government to the state, but the state has to complement them, and especially as it relates to community colleges. That's basically completely state. You know, trying to say this, see how I can say this without being too political, and I don't want to, you want some substance, I don't want to be too political, but you have differences of opinion with people that are in public office. You have certain people who value public education, and you have certain people that want to undercut public education. There are certain states where they pay public school teachers more than what they pay you. And right now, I think there's a certain, I'll be careful not to there's a certain group of people that are in a position of power in North Carolina that maybe do not value public education in the way that other people value public education. And so, I don't know if I can answer your question properly. It's a little bleak right now. It's a little bleak. You know, we have, part of what made North Carolina great is we have the best university system in the entire country. That's no lie. And we have the best community college system in the entire country because people had the foresight to create that and that it would pay dividends decades down the line. And so, I mean, there's no other state I would challenge you to find that has community colleges in every county. You know, in a small rural county like Duplin County, you transfer this type of county to another state, you're not going to find the same educational opportunities. And so, what you're talking about, the best answer I can maybe give you is it's a risk right now. My boss supports Pell Grants, supports education funding. He can be very conservative on some issues, but he is very progressive when it comes to education funding. And I don't think that you have to worry about that from him, but he's one of 435 in Congress. But the state is obviously what you're most concerned about right now. And back to your point about people getting involved, you know, you don't only get involved in campaigns, you can get involved in issue campaigns. You know, the proudest thing I've ever been involved in was not a campaign. It was a effort, Sudanese divestment. I'm sure you're probably a lot of people familiar with what's going on in Sudan. And I was involved in a campaign to get our state pension program to divest from Sudanese government-run businesses. So not only can you get involved in political campaigns, I would maybe say that even more important than that is getting involved in issue campaigns. You have a state senator or a state representative that represents you here, and those are the ones that are making the decision on that type of funding. So you have to talk to those people on an individual basis. Remember, they work for you. Just like I work for you, you pay my salary. Through your tax dollars, you pay my salary, you pay my boss's salary, you pay the salary of the people that you've elected on the state level. And you need to make sure they hear your voice. You need to make sure that the people in this room, that y'all band together, and if you share the sentiments of this lady, that you need to make sure that you communicate that. Because you need to make sure that they understand that if they don't do what you want them to do, that you're going to make sure that you work to make sure that they're not there next time to go against you on that type of issue. Because the programs that benefit you, like what you're sitting here today, they're at risk. They're at risk on the federal level, and they're definitely at risk on the state level. And I know I'm not completely answering your question, but I don't have a great answer for you. Probably the best answer I can give you is that you have to step up and make your voice heard to make sure that there are other avenues of funding to keep programs like this going, but to keep the community colleges alive and prospering, and thriving and being progressive and looking towards the future. Because the budgets of everybody is shrinking right now. But what are we to do if we're not only planning and protecting the least of these, the folks that need things most, but also planning for our children's future and the future of everyone by investing in our education system here in this state. And I think at the head of the spear of the educational system in this state is our great community college system. So I would challenge you to organize the folks in this room and your friends and neighbors to make sure that your state senators and state representatives know that you're concerned that the funding is drying up. Because, like I said, there's a certain group of people that are in power right now that probably have some differences of opinion with you. And I'm sorry, I know that doesn't concretely answer your question. And no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. Everyone's fearful.
I guess if you want to go out, you want to get together, you notify, you semester, you got to wait to see, how you going to have to see
Yeah, and it's not a real unique system, a unique situation right now with what's going on. But we need to make sure, and budgets do have to fight, just like everybody's budget is on fight, they have to fight. But we need to make sure we are still spending in the proper place, because this is the proper place to save. I know I'll probably take up too much time. Do you have anything else?
We just want to tell you give a hearty JSCC. I think we learned a lot and gained a lot of knowledge about how the whole political process works, and that it is a lot more than just simply going out and campaigning. It's not and just completely talking on that today. And I hope that all of us, from an educational perspective, which is what we're all about here, can gain something from this and take it with you. And who knows, you might be a social worker in the local office today.
And I'll say one last thing. No matter what your background is, what you've done in the past, where you're sitting right now today, not sitting here listening to me, I said, sitting here at James Front Community College, which is a great institution, you right now is the only thing that you can control, and you're doing the right thing right now. And I compliment you on that, and I challenge you to continue to progress in the future. And thanks to y'all's great university, college officials and everything, I wish you all the best of luck. I'll be here to give you my cards. Anything I can do for you, I'll try and